Tonight, young people arrested following a spate of break-ins at Whyalla. And a driver and passenger flee following a police chase on the Yorke Peninsula.
From our 7 Spencer Golf studios, your nightly news with Louise Hedger begins now.
Good evening. 4 young boys and an adult have been arrested following a spate of break-ins around Whyalla over the weekend. A range of items were stolen from homes and vehicles before the group was taken into custody. Shari Ham has the details.
Early Sunday morning, police located 5 young males ranging between 11 to 18 years old, arresting and charging them for multiple property and vehicle break-ins. Those break-ins were at Whyalla Jenkins, Whyalla Norrie and Whyalla Stewart over the weekend.
All up, a total of 3 serious criminal trespass, 6 illegal interference, 7 property damage and 2 illegal use of motor vehicle offences were reported to police.
It's alleged the group is responsible for a spate of crimes where several items were stolen, including a motorcycle, scooter and ride-on lawnmower.
Parents and guardians to look out for your children, to look after your children and to make sure you know where they are, so they don't get involved in this sort of thing.
Those items have since been recovered. Police say they're not shocked about the young age of these suspects, calling on parents or guardians for assistance. Police asking the community to come forward with more information as investigations continue and to remain vigilant by locking their houses and vehicles. Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A 42-year-old man has been arrested following an alleged car chase with police at Adgery on the Yorke Peninsula at around 10 o'clock on Friday night. Police allege the Yorktown resident refused to stop his car, which led to a pursuit down Sandico and Cunliffe roads. Patrols located the driver and passenger fleeing on foot after the car was dumped on a nearby property. The man was arrested and charged with failing to stop and driving unlicensed. He is set to appear in Kadina Magistrates Court next month. A new government-led initiative will see 40 new crisis beds made available for victims and perpetrators of domestic violence. The $4 million project aimed at helping families remain in their homes.
Rushing to leave home and escape domestic violence, an awful situation no one wants to experience. But sadly, it's one which is exceptionally common.
The children are out of their beds and they have to leave with whatever they can grab at that time and go somewhere where they're safe.
But a new initiative by the state government could help victims stay in their own home if it's safe to do so, setting up 40 new domestic violence crisis beds which perpetrators can use instead of victims being forced to leave.
Make sure that the family are safe in their home, and that enables the family to continue to be near their support school services.
The new beds will be located around South Australia, including some regional towns like Port Lincoln and Whyalla. Relocating the perpetrators from their home is a new concept aimed at tackling the scourge of domestic violence.
That is important, that the children have what's familiar to them and their toys and able to go to school and that sort of thing.
Minister Lensick says those perpetrators will be relocated to existing government housing where authorities can intervene and offer support to work towards changing behaviour.
Rather than building new sites at this stage, we're not in a position to do that, so we'll be using existing stock.
The $4 million project will be rolled out over the next 12 months. If you or someone you know needs support, contact 1800-RESPECT. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Health practitioners in Port Augusta are optimistic about a new alternative method to test for cervical cancer. From today, the test is available in the town, with doctors hopeful it will increase screening rates across the region.
Across Australia last year, 940 women were diagnosed with cervical cancer.
The women at most risk of getting cancer of the cervix are actually those that don't participate in screening regularly.
These health experts say early detection is the key, but a number of factors can lead to hesitation to get checked.
Sometimes it's embarrassment and fear. Sometimes it can be due to really worry about pain or discomfort.
But a new groundbreaking development could change all that. In alternative to a pap smear, the self-collection method allows women to use a swab to take their own test.
This test really provides a very dignified, simple, painless and accurate alternative.
It will be rolled out across Port Augusta from today, with local doctors anticipating it will increase screening rates, particularly in Indigenous women, who are nearly 4 times more likely to develop the cancer.
We're hoping that women can feel comfortable and come and talk about it at least, and then we can help them have the test when they're ready.
The screening method is also set to fly out to remote communities facing access barriers to health services.
If we can help, even one person treat their cancer before it's ever happened, that is worth it.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Freedom of movement just got easier for residents at Brook Hospital with the installation of a new access ramp. The project finally taking off the ground after a donation from the Southern Flinders Health Advisory Council.
The iconic facade of Crystal Brook's heritage-listed hospital is certainly an eye-catcher. But over the years, it's become a nightmare for people living with a physical disability. A donation from the local Health Advisory Council hoping to make things easier, with the installation of a $16,000 access ramp.
Approached the HAC, our Health Advisory Council, to see if they could help us fund the construction of the ramp.
HAC, footing half the bill, has helped the project off the ground, improving the lives of both residents and visitors.
It wasn't close enough to admin and to the Roseview end of our hospital, which our aged care recipients live in.
The ramp giving residents better access to the hospital's gardens and car park.
It is a lot quicker because I've only just go from just down the aisle a bit.
No longer do patients have to brave the steep steps of the hospital's front.
Anyone who has issues in climbing steps, it's quite steep for people to climb up the steps.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, Borough's Antique Fair attracting thousands of bargain hunters. Port Augusta's Yumiwara radio station has welcomed a funding commitment of over $290,000 from the Labor Party. The investment would expand the station's broadcasting capabilities.
For over 30 years, the radio frequency 89.1 has been the voice for Indigenous people across the region.
Thanks for joining us today on the program and have a great network week.
Blending a mix of local issues, music and conversations, Amiwara Media's work on the airwaves has seen it receive federal funding of over $290,000.
I mean, this service provides an exceptional engagement with their community, and I think that's really important.
If elected, the Labor Party investment will help purchase solar panels, air conditioning, a new four-wheel drive vehicle, as well as an outside broadcast kit, allowing for broader reach across the region.
And really spread the message, and it's an important message to hear.
It's about time that government understand the important needs of First Nations media.
Station management say the funds will help them turn the corner from what has been a cash-strapped few years.
There are times when we thought about even closing the doors to Amiwara. Things have been that tight.
It's just great so we can, help spread out our message and, spread out to the communities.
The Coalition says it has no plans for similar funding at this stage. Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
PIRSA is reminding recreational and commercial fishers that a King George white enclosure is in full effect through the month of May. The ban is put in place to protect the species during its breeding season, spanning across the southern regions of the Spencer Gulf and Gulf of St Vincent. Those breaching the laws can face considerable fines. South Australia's 100-year-old dog fence is set for an upgrade if the Coalition is re-elected in this month's federal election. The $25 million funding partnership with the state government and Livestock SA will see 1,600 kilometres of the fence replaced. The livestock industry has welcomed the news, with farmers losing an estimated 19,000 sheep to wild dogs last year.
It's really important for the whole of the sheep industry that we address this issue because the dogs are coming south.
The infrastructure stretches from the far north to the west coast of South Australia. Thousands of bargain hunters and collectors flocked to Borough this weekend for the annual Vintage and Antique Fair. The two-day spectacular drawing in crowds from across the state in the heritage-listed town.
Showcasing collections of everything retro, rustic and rare. Borough's Vintage and Antique Fair attracting quite a crowd into the town's main hall.
It's been running for over 20 years in Borough, and a few years ago we rebadged it as a Vintage Antique Fair.
For the committee chairperson, watching the constant flow of people entering the hall is a massive sigh of relief. The Antique Fair had almost become history itself in recent years due to a decline in popularity, but a bump in advertisement helping to get the numbers back on track. The town's population more than doubling over the weekend.
Because it needed to be revamped. It was close to folding if we didn't re-energise it. So we've managed to do that. This year is bigger and better than ever.
In antique roadshow fashion, a front-of-house evaluator also helping draw in the crowd.
Just arrived here and it's a lovely English condiment set, Birmingham 1899, so it's Victorian, a lovely thing, probably worth $200 to $300.
An event making history for years to come. Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Golf News.
SES crews in Port Lincoln were called out to an early morning salvage mission on Saturday after a wooden cray boat was found sinking in the town's marina. Emergency services arriving to find the boat underwater along with a smaller yacht that was tied to the back of the sinking ship. Thankfully, no one was on board during the incident. It comes just days before the boat was meant to be transported to the Maritime Museum. Organisers say they're planning on refloating the 83-year-old vessel. Stay with us dressed in pink for breast cancer research, and Britt will join us with the week's weather. Hello again. Punters have dusted off their best pink outfits and headed through the gates at the Port Augusta Racecourse as part of the annual Pink Ladies Day event. The day featuring 7 races, with part of the proceeds to be donated to support local women living with breast cancer. Two-time Melbourne Cup winner John Letts even making an appearance.
Pink Ladies is very, very important to us, so the girls are never forgotten, and you can see there's a good crowd here today.
Mr. Letts said he was impressed by the club's new upgrades to the racetrack. It was a competitive weekend of football in Port Lincoln, with the town hosting its first night match for the season, attracting huge crowds. Nathan Rector has the story.
Well, hundreds came out over the weekend to support their teams, Port Lincoln hosting its one and only night match for the season. It was a win for Mallee Park against Lincoln South, kicking 10 goals and 23 points compared to South's 10 goals and 7 points, leaving Mallee Park with a 16-point victory, their first win for the season. It was a convincing win for Waybacks at Centenary Oval, who took out the game with a 77-point win against Boston's. The night game saw Tasmans versus Marble Range. It looked like a convincing win for Tasmans at the end of the third quarter with a 37-point lead. However, Marble Range fought back in the last quarter, kicking 6 goals, but it couldn't save them, with Tasmans claiming the victory by 8 points. Around the region now in Whyalla, it was a resounding win for North Whyalla, who were versing Waroona Bay on Friday. 10 goals and 6 points to North and 3 goals and 7 points to Waroona. It was a closer game on the Saturday, with West Whyalla taking out the game with an 11-point victory against Central. In Port Augusta, we saw West Augusta versus Port, West staying on top for the entire game, sealing them the victory. A close game between Solomon Town and South Augusta, with 2 points separating the win. Solomon Town kicking 11 goals and 7 points to South's 9 goals and 17 points. To Broken Hill now, and it was a win for the West Football Club, who had a 39-point victory against North Football Club. At Memorial Oval, it was a massive win for South Football Club, who scored 112 points against Central. It was an even start in the first quarter, with both teams scoring 4 points, but the South pulled ahead, sealing them the victory. Well, there were some close calls and some resounding wins for footy in the region this weekend, and I'll be back tomorrow with the rest of sport.
Now let's take a look at the weather. Here's Britt.
Thanks, Louise, and good evening. It's been a sunny day across the region. Port Augusta with a top of 23 today, Whyalla and Adelaide 22, Port Pirie 21, Port Lincoln 20 and Broken Hill 18. To the satellite now, with a ridge of high pressure weakening as it moves to the southeast. Tonight, a cold front will reach the west of South Australia, bringing showers across the state tomorrow. On the waters, strong southwesterly winds at up to 30 knots with swells at 1 metre. And the sun will rise at 7:06 tomorrow with sunset at 20 to 6. And as I mentioned, we'll see showers heading our way, Port Augusta and Corn with tops of 23, Whyalla and Port Pirie 22, Broken Hill remaining sunny 21 degrees, Kadina 20, Adelaide and Port Lincoln 19, Clare 18, Coffin Bay and Cleve both with tops of 17 degrees. And moving ahead through the week now, it looks like that wet weather is here to stay. Port Lincoln with maximums sitting in the mid to late teens, Cleve much the same as chilly top of 13 on Thursday, Woodnut with similar conditions as well, showers through the week. Whyalla and Port Augusta both remaining dry on Wednesday ahead of a rainy Thursday, Kadina with that wet weather continuing. Port Pirie with tops in the mid to late teens, showers on Wednesday, rain Thursday and Friday. Clare with a cold and rainy end to the week, and the showers will reach Broken Hill on Thursday, but looking partly cloudy Wednesday and Friday. And Louise, here's hoping that we see some substantial rainfall in the coming days.
Thanks for that, Britt. And that's your local news this Monday. Thanks for joining us. We'll have updates later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.